I just really, really hated myself a lot. Why are we so hard on ourselves all the time? Life is so complicated and crazy, and there's no way that we can control it all. My name's Isabella Sandak-Lewin, but everyone calls me Izzy Sandak. And I'm South African, although I identify more as, I don't know, British now because I've been living here for so long, and I feel like this is my kind of base. And South Africa is just like a beautiful place that I was lucky to grow up in and see. And yeah.
Okay. Great. Thanks for coming on. So tell me what. So you're at Cambridge. You've just finished.
Yes.
This is how we know each other. We live together.
Yeah, we live together in Maudlin.
Yeah. And you are... Actually, can you say the story of your surname since you just mentioned it?
Yeah, sure. Okay, so no one else apart from like my immediate like family has Sandak-Lewin surname. It's a double barrel surname, and Sandak originates from someone on my dad's side of the family who was saved in the Holocaust, and he was brought over by a philanthropist in South Africa, and he was the only one who I like satisfied all the criteria to like being the right age, being healthy, to be adopted and be brought over into South Africa. And when he was adopted, he wanted to keep the family name. He was adopted by the Lewins, so that's how we got Sandak-Lewin. Yeah.
How old was he?
He was 13, so he just made the cut at the upper age limit.
And that's your dad's?
My dad's.
Grandpa.
No, it's my dad's. It's from my dad's grandpa's. Like, I'm not sure of the specifics beyond that. I should know. My Oma wrote a book, and she's got a shit ton of details in there, so I should probably read that. And
what's an Oma? An
Oma is what I call my granny on my dad's side of the family. She's German, and so Oma, Opa is grandpa. It's a German word for granny and grandpa.
And you have a German passport as well?
I have a German passport, I have a British passport, and I have a South African passport.
Do you have a British passport?
Yeah.
Oh, because your mum is from here.
Yeah, so my mum was born in the UK, and she also has a super interesting story.
Yeah, she does.
Yeah.
Okay, so tell me about how you grew up.
Okay, so I grew up in Cape Town, in a Jewish community, which I had a very love-hate relationship with. It is kind of weird because being in like the Jewish community, you kind of have this huge sense of belonging, but at the same time, there was a lot of sense of not belonging.
What do you mean?
As in, like, it's so tight-knit, but also there's not a lot of diversity. And so, like, sometimes you just feel like you don't fit in to this, like, kind of, like, the roles that most people take on. And the roles are pretty rigid, but at the same time, it's a small community, and you do feel like, because you're in it, you do feel like this kind of sense of belonging. So there's kind of, like, a dichotomy there. But yeah, I went to a Jewish day school, Herzliya, and I think, how detailed should I go?
As detailed as you want to go.
I went to a Jewish day school called Herzliya. School wasn't really easy for me. I always felt like I was trying to like make friends, and I never really felt like I really fitted in. I remember like when I was 13 and celebrating my bat mitzvah and having so much anxiety over like who's going to write a speech for me and talk about me, and even when like I got my friends to write the speeches, I never really like, I always questioned like whether even what they were saying was true. I guess that's like a bit of imposter syndrome.
As in if they were saying nice things about
yeah,
you.
like if they really meant it and these kinds of things. I danced a lot when I was younger, and I absolutely loved that. Like those are my happiest memories, are always just being on stage and being with my dancing friends. And I really, really, really have such a passion for it. And it's like my one happy place to be on stage and to be dancing. But yeah, so we're talking about how I grew up. One big thing that I remember was my parents getting divorced, or starting to get divorced around the age of when I was like 12 years old. And that was quite traumatic. That was like the first time, I think, just realizing that, like, you know, these people who you think are superhumans and are like completely stable and grounded, like actually they're also trying to figure things out. And I think that's the first time I really realized like life's not very black and white, and it's not so easy all the time. And yeah, I have 3 siblings, and we all kind of dealt with the divorce in very different ways. And yeah.
How do you feel like you dealt with it at that time?
I think at the time I felt really, really angry towards my dad, and I stopped talking to him for like maybe 3 years. I didn't speak to him at all, and I felt really upset at him, and I couldn't understand like why he cheated and why he did all of these things. And I think I also felt a lot of hurt for his partner that he was with as well. And I just had like a lot of hate in my heart, and it's a feeling that like it's just not a nice feeling to live with. And now, like, as I've grown older, I have the best relationship with my dad, and I'm so lucky, and I love him, and I know that he loves us so much. And I love his partner too, and I think that she makes him happy. And I think that whole experience, it just taught me about, like, you know, people just don't want to feel lonely, and we all like we all do have good intentions, and it's kind of like finding that balance between putting yourself first and putting others first. And there's no right answer to that. So yeah.
That's a lot of learning for a young person. I mean, it is, but you are so young, and you're so, like, these conclusions a lot of people don't realize until way later in life.
Yeah.
Or maybe they never realize.
Yeah. I think that there are experiences that I don't feel like I'm like necessarily like brave or anything like that, because these things kind of happened to me, and I just, you know, like dealt with them. And I think like other things, like, you know, also with the divorce, like I also at the same time started like with my eating disorders and all of that stuff. I definitely don't think that that's something, I mean, maybe that was more internal. And like, I kind of appreciate these opportunities for allowing me to learn. And I think that like having these deeply sad times also makes me the happy person that I am today, because it like makes me appreciate like all the highs as well. But yeah.
So do you want to talk about then what happened? Because I think your story is so interesting, but
yeah,
as you've told me, but like then how you ended up kind of living on your own for a bit.
Okay, so when my parents got divorced, they moved into like smaller flats that were like closer to the beach, And my dad was just like, okay, there's not enough rooms for everyone, like we can just get an extra one. And I was very happy to move in around the time I was like 14 or 15. And I think that like I mean it is now that I look back at it, like I remember at the time like feeling really like, oh, I really miss like family dinners and all of these things. But I also enjoyed the independence. I also felt like sometimes I wish that like I did have more attention from my parents during that time, because like they were super like hands off, which is like really nice, and all of that. There was nothing to rebel against or anything, and I think that's why I had a pretty like kind of like, I mean, I don't think I was necessarily that naughty or anything. I didn't have much to rebel against. Yeah, I guess I spent a lot of time when I was younger like alone, and in addition to like living alone, I didn't really have that many friends either. And that was as a result of like just being like super invested in my dancing. And I think like with everything happening, like my dancing was like one outlet that I just focused like all of my attention to. And so I used to dance like all the time, Saturdays 9 to 5. We'd go on like tours, that was my entire life. And I guess like it kind of segregated me from like all of my peers and around school and stuff, because like, you know, if anyone asked me if I was free, I'd always be like, nope, I'm dancing and I'm busy. And I love that. I really love that. But then towards like, am I jumping around a bit?
You can jump around as much as you want.
Yeah. Towards the end, like I stopped dancing a lot when I was like 17, 18, just because I had developed anorexia like around 15. I think that's a combination of a lot of things, like just a low self-esteem and also wanting to be like the best dancer, and of course your body's always on display, and you know, getting told that I had like big thighs, or like...
Who told you that?
So Mrs. Cheeseman told me that. She also said that my shoulders were too broad and there was nothing I could do about it. But
in what context?
In the context of that was for an audition for RAD, which was like a intensive, like an extra intensive program of like conditioning and training and stuff, and you could also at the end like perform in shows, and I just didn't get the part, and it was written in an email. But there were always like small things, like the first time I walked into the new company that I was dancing in, like I remember Mrs. Cheeseman saying, she was like, girls, you see that tummy? We're gonna get rid of that. And she was pointing to me, and I was like this, like, you know, like curvy, like you know, chubby little like 14, 15-year-old. Like I've like never been like a skinny body type, and there were all these like ballerinas in there who were like little sticks, and it was horrible. I remember coming home and just like crying and like bashing my like arms on the sofa, and my head was just like cuddled in the fucking pillows, and it was just like I felt like so angry at myself, and I think that's definitely was like a part of it. I just remember realizing like one day I was like, okay, like if I don't eat, like I can feel like this kind of numbness, and I got addicted to that feeling, and it like happened so quickly that suddenly, like if I put anything in my mouth, I would feel so fucking angry at myself, and I'd be like, you do not like deserve this. And it felt good. It was like, I guess it was like a self-harm thing in a way, and it was like one thing that I could control amongst like everything else, amongst like, you know, my dad like constantly moving different flats, and like you know, my mom like feeling upset that she doesn't have like the whole family unit anymore, and you know, I also had a troubling relationship with my older sister. So like, I don't know, there was like one thing that like I could feel like I was in control, but it wasn't necessarily to like get skinny. Like that's like, it was way deeper than that. It was way deeper than that. Yeah.
And did people start noticing?
Yeah. And I remember at first like being like really happy that people were noticing, and then like all of a sudden I suddenly felt so embarrassed. I remember going to dancing class and like I bought this like jumpsuit that was like had like really thick wool so it could like cover up that I was skinny, and I started feeling so embarrassed about it. I remember then walking into dancing class and Mrs. Cheeseman was like, did you eat today, or like something like this, or like I don't know, I had this, she said something to me like that, and I suddenly was like, oh my god, like I thought everyone was against me. I was like, oh my god, my mom has obviously called Mrs. Cheeseman and told her that I'm not eating, because I was constantly having fights with my mom about did I eat, all of this stuff. And I used to like, there was a lot of lying that went into that. I'm like, no, I promise I did. At like break time, I ate food, and then I'd always just tell everyone that I was eating at separate times. It like completely, my entire day, like I had to be like super like, you know, like food is something that brings us together, and it's a very social thing. And I think that also segregated me a lot from people, because I didn't ever want to eat with them. So, you know, I was like, I'd always avoid going out for lunch with people, or like avoid things, or I suddenly just became this person who only spoke about, oh yeah, I ate food here and I ate food here, and like all I thought about was food. And like it was just really depressing to have your whole life reduced to just like, have you eaten, have you not eaten, have a fight with this person, you know. Got it kind of like, the worst point that I realized, I remember I was like, fuck, I'm really stuck, was when like I was hurting everyone around me because I wasn't eating. And then I'd be like, okay, just but that made me like happy in a sense to not eat. And then I'd eat because I'd feel bad that I'm hurting others, and then that would make me really unhappy. So it's like you're kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place. And yeah, I think my parents were very like, my mom specifically was like tough love. Like she was just like super like, you know, rude to me around food and everything, and like, you better eat this and you got to do this. And I think ultimately it did help me. I think, although I think with eating disorders and with these things, like the scary thing with all mental health, the scary thing is like the only person who can help yourself is you. Like you have to want to get better. And no one, no matter how hard they try, like no one can change your mind. Like you have to somehow find that. And for me, it was like reaching a rock bottom. I remember I was meant to perform in one of the Eisteddfods, and I had like my own solo dance, and that one of the directors of the company had like choreographed for me, and we spent so long on it. And like we went to a dress rehearsal, and I like did the thing on stage, and she stopped me halfway and she was like, you're too weak to do this. And I felt like such a failure. I like ran outside. My mom was like, oh, did you eat your oats today? Like, like, you know, like as if that was like one simple solution. And I ultimately wasn't even able to do that Eisteddfod dance. I felt like such a failure. I think that at that point something snapped in me, and I was like, right, like you need to want to get better. And from then on, like I always have, like even now I have like two voices in my head. One which is like, you know, that's it, like anorexia and all of that stuff, that's like a good place to be, that's what you deserve. But then there's another part that's like, no, like you deserve to be happy and you deserve all of that stuff. And there's like constantly this battle between the two. And I think that voice, I don't think I'll ever be able to get rid of it, but I am able to silence it and let the good one take over. The good ones take it over for a long time and be very happy and very good. Yeah.
Oh God, I have so much I want to say, because this thing just keeps on coming up. This have we talked about this internal family systems? This
Yeah, I love that. You're the one who told me about that. I actually told it to the Rabbi Chabad, and his wife like read a book on it, and she was like, "Oh my god!" And I was like, "Bonding with the Rabs." Yeah.
Was this the rabbi in Cambridge?
Yeah, in Cambridge.
Who I've met.
He's lovely.
Yeah, so it's like that voice, and actually we talked about this in the time you told me about it, which was like, oh my god, like I feel like I'm gonna cry thinking of that in the Selwyn Gardens.
Oh my god.
When me and Izzy had a very magical experience together.
A very magical experience.
And yeah, understanding that voice, like separating that voice from you, like it's not you.
Yeah.
But the next step, because I think a lot of people recognize this stuff, like there's all this like death to ego, and like this is, you know, this part of you that's your inner critic and stuff. Yeah. But IFS is like the next step where it's like you have to give love to that as well. So even that voice who's, yeah, seriously like putting your life at risk by making you starve, it's like listening to it. And then like, do you feel like you're in a point where you can have compassion for the voice, or is it kind of this thing that you're like, I need to just shut it away?
I still think I'm at the point of trying to shut it away. Even like while I was walking here, I was having this thought. I was like, oh my god, why am I always so fucking anxious about everything? And I was just thinking like, oh, it's gonna be so nice to see Delia, and just to be able to like talk and not be like in my head thinking about that. Because like when I'm alone, I have like a lot of anxiety, although I do enjoy being alone, and sometimes I don't have a lot of anxiety about that. But I think I'm still in my headspace. I'm still like trying to just like say like, no, it's not there, go away, like, you know, instead of having I'm not at the point of having compassion for it and saying like, yeah, I'll this is okay, like you can have space here.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, so actually that's what I wanted to ask you, like how.
But also this is like sometimes like our thoughts are not like stuck in stone. Like sometimes maybe I do have like the compassion, and sometimes I don't, and like maybe my memory like is only making me think right now that I don't have the compassion for it. But like, you know, like we're always like fluid and changing, and like some days are really, really good, and some like months are really good, and you know, and other times they aren't. Like it's hard to like, it's actually really hard, I think, to like reflect on how you are feeling. I find that like really hard to like actually know like what is the truth.
Yeah. Yeah, because I was just thinking you have so much compassion for your dad. Like you talked about going through that period of anger and hate. Yeah. And now you have access to this amazing place of, I guess, forgiveness and love and compassion. How were you able to do that, do you think?
I think that my dad is like just such a wonderful dad, and he really like does love me. He loves all his kids so much, and you can just see that through like he gives us his time. He will always give us his attention. He will, you know, always be worrying about us, and he just wants the best for us. Like if, you know, he spoils us. He's like, you know, he wants us to have opportunities in life. He wants us to be able to do whatever we want to do. And I think just seeing that love that he always gave me, like, I think it just naturally, like, I realized, okay, like, you know, like, he's like not a bad person. In fact, I have a lot of guilt. I have a lot of guilt for like not talking to him for like those 3 years, and for like, I remember the other day I was like, Dad, like I know I was like not so like good at that time? And he was like, yeah, you were like so horrible to me. And I felt so bad. I felt so
But you were
guilty
12.
about that. I know.
You shouldn't feel guilty.
Yeah. I used to give my dad such a hard time when he was younger as well. I used to hate the idea of smoking cigarettes. And like if I'd ever see him smoke a cigarette, I'd like throw the biggest tantrum. He'd have like house parties all the time, and I'd like put up no smoking signs, like when I was like 5 or 6 years old. And it would make me so upset. I'd like run to my room. I'd lock myself in my room for like the entire evening, and I wouldn't eat, and I'd cry and I'd cry and I'd cry and I'd cry and be so upset at him. And all his friends as well, whenever they see me now, they're just like, oh my God, Izzy, do you remember when you were younger? Like it was such a handful. I was, yeah.
What was it, because you'd heard smoking's dangerous and you didn't?
Yeah. And I was like upset that he, like, I thought that like if you had like 30 cigarettes you would die. And I was like how can you do this to us? Like, yeah. I remember telling my friend, like Mika, when like her mom was smoking with my dad, I was like, do you know that 30 cigarettes, and she was like, oh my God, I think my mom's had like 12. We were like swimming in the pool in Platt in our little holiday house. It was so funny. I remember it so distinctively.
And now you smoke, do you?
Oh yeah, I smoke now.
Not much though, do you?
No, but now I'm addicted to the vape.
Yeah, I see. Okay, can we talk about when you moved to the UK, or why you decided to?
Yeah, let's talk about that. Okay, so I moved to the UK. I was studying mechatronic engineering in UCT in Cape Town. And I actually, before that, I'd met a guy who was like my first love, Yenev, and he was on study abroad when I was still in high school, and like we just connected super well.
How did you meet?
We met at a Pesach Seder, and he was on like
What's that?
Xanax or something. I don't know. He was hyperspace, but I didn't know.
Pesach?
A Pesach Seder. It's a Jewish Chagim, it's a Jewish holiday, and you like sit around a table and you talk about how the Jews left Egypt.
Is that the one with the huts? Where you build the huts?
Oh no, that's Sukkot. Yeah, that's Sukkot. Oh my God, testing my Jewish knowledge. No, that's the one where you eat matzah, because you don't eat any bread because the Jews didn't have time to let the bread rise. I met him at Pesach Seder, and then yeah, we had a few dates, and we climbed up some mountains. We danced a lot together. It was just really fun. And I remember being like, oh my God, like I was like infatuated with him, and I was like, okay, I need to move to America. So there go, like all of my like I put so much time into doing American applications. I got like had to like get a special person to come to South Africa or to come to Cape Town to my school to register the SAT test, because they'd never done that before. I had to do those tests and all these things. Anyways, I got into some universities. But like nothing that I like, no scholarships and nothing that I was like, oh my God, like I have to go there. So I decided not to go, and I was like, right, I'm going to do mechatronic engineering at UCT. I had a scholarship for that, and I thought engineering was cool, especially coming out of like my anorexia. I didn't want to do, like, I wanted to stick out, I think, because like dancing was like my one thing that was me, and I was like, fuck, what am I? And did the whole like woman in STEM vibes.
Because you had to give up dancing.
Yeah. I did have to give up dancing. It wasn't like I was necessarily kicked out. I think I kind of was like, I mean, I remember Debbie, our director, she like kept having meetings with me like on the Saturdays, like when I kept saying, okay, I'm gonna like resign, I want to resign, and she was like, don't do this, like you're a star, and like blah 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 blah, and like you know you really have a special talent, and like you know you're throwing away so much. And I was like, no, I just can't. I lost all my passion for it, and it was hard. So then I went into engineering. I mean, I do like maths. I was good at maths and physics, and I also liked the element of being different with it. Like, I mean, even in mechatronics, it was like 3 other girls and there was like 300 guys, and like it made, like, I don't think this is a good way of thinking of anything, but it gave me like some kind of like, okay, yeah, I'm different, like I'm doing something different. And yeah, I was studying there, and then...
And what does mechatronics involve?
Mechatronics is like mechanical engineering and electrical engineering. Why are you making that face?
No, because I'm just reliving when I started chemical engineering. We had to do that, like a general engineering subject, and I think it was like mechatronics was like building this robot.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't know how the fuck to build a robot, and I don't care, like chemical engineering has nothing to do with that. And so I'm just like, ugh, horror.
Really?
From remembering it.
Oh, I think it's so fucking cool. I really like it.
Great.
Yeah. Although it was really hard. It was so hard. I remember doing like my first physics, like we had lectures from like 7 o'clock in the morning until like 5, and then we had like a physics exam test or whatever, like 7 o'clock in the evening, like on the same day. And I remember coming out of it and I was like, I think I got 100%. And I got the results back. I got like 15%. I failed. So I was like, wait, what is going on?
I bet you actually got like 97%.
No, I swear to God, I was failing. I was like, what the fuck? I don't know what was going on. It was very difficult. And like when I moved to the UK and I to do biomedical engineering after a year, when I was like, I stopped mechatronics.
Why did you decide to move?
I decided to move because I wasn't happy, like the same thing. I still, even though like I thought that moving to university, I would make new friends. I would be able to like, you know, I didn't have friends in high school. I got really badly bullied, in fact. And I thought that like, that it would be different going to university, but like it was really hard to get out of the circles that I was in, and still like everyone kind of, even like going to university, no one really moved out of their homes. Everyone stayed in the same social circles, like nothing really changed. And I just remember like we had like a SolidWorks class on a Friday afternoon, and we had a little test, and then I asked my one friend, because I didn't know how to submit my assignment of SolidWorks, which I hated because I'm left-handed, and I didn't realize that I therefore needed to change the button of the mouse. So like everything I clicked was like reversed, and like it was just so hard. And I remember being like, what the fuck? It was like CAD, so like computer aided design and stuff. And anyways, I asked my friend to help me submit the test, and then he deleted it by mistake. And then in the panic of the moment, he let me copy his, sent it to me on email, and I like quickly changed like 1 or 2 different like things and submitted it. And I felt so bad. And I remember just walking to my car. I got into my car and I just bawled out crying. I had a boyfriend at the time who was
not your nerve.
Oh God, I mean, I don't know what I was thinking. He just like drank beer with the boys all the time, and like
from uni.
He was in a different uni. He was like a soccer player. He looked really good, but there was nothing really much. I'm so sorry to this guy. He'll never find it. It's fine. There was like no other connection.
Was he Jewish?
But he wasn't Jewish. He looked good. That's it.
How did you meet?
How did we meet? Okay. Honestly, he doesn't even take up that much space in my brain. I can't tell you. But anyways, he told me to come fetch him from Hudson's because it was like beer hour or whatever, and he needed a lift home. And I was just like, oh my God, this is like so depressing. Like, what is my life? I felt like it was just like, I know the story doesn't sound bad, but that I just had like a breakdown moment. I called my dad and he was like, just drive your car. Like, and I was like, I don't know what to do. Like, waited 20 minutes to calm down. I drove to him. We went out for dinner and he was like, apply to study in the UK. Like, you have a British passport, like you've got all your applications out, apply. I remember looking at the internet and it was on the UCAS, and it was like an hour before, it was a day before something called, what's the thing where they close the applications and they start like doing the
I
don't know. But anyways, I had a night to do it, and I just smashed out these applications. I applied to like Nottingham, to King's, blah 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 blah. I remember applying for like bullshit degrees because I was like kind of angry at my dad. I was like, it's never gonna work out. Like I'll never get accepted to this.
Why did he tell you to go to the UK? He just saw you needed it.
He always knew that like I mean I just did not ever fit in Cape Town, and I hate it because it's the most beautiful place and everything, but the people there, I guess it was like the bullying. I kind of had anxiety of like, I don't want to be like, you know, if these people don't like me, I don't want to be invading their space. I just always felt like I was invading, like I wasn't really myself. It was very much like a culture of like the girls just always talking about dieting, always talking about like how they look and all of this stuff, and I think that with my anorexia, I knew like I couldn't compete in that. Like I could never feel that beauty, and so therefore I didn't want that to be any part of my life. And
were you back at a healthy weight at this point?
At this point I was, yeah. When I was 18 I was healthy again. And yeah, I applied, I got into King's, and then I left. Like I remember I got in on the same day as I was meant to write my maths exam, and I was like, fuck it, I'm not writing the maths exam. I was like really confused if I should or shouldn't. I was like, no, I'm not putting myself through that. And then I went to London.
How soon after?
Like a month.
Wow.
Yeah. And that was then a whole nother experience.
A whole nother chapter.
Yeah, a whole nother chapter.
Do you want to talk about it?
Yeah, sure.
So you were studying...
So I arrived in London and
to do biomedical
engineering. I remember we had like a freshers week, and I actually, hear this out, I got scabies on my face. So I couldn't go to any of the parties.
What?
Scabies.
What's
like those
that?
little bugs that fucking eat your skin. How
do you get that?
I think I got it from like, I have no idea. I think I got it from like, well, they say like dirty makeup brushes. It could be that. Now my makeup brushes are always clean. Always clean. I swear to God.
I think that was the second time I met you. You were cleaning your makeup.
Really?
And you were like, yeah,
I was cleaning them.
You were like, yeah, I have a lot of time on my hands. Oh, because you were intermitting.
Yeah. Oh my God.
We can get to that.
Okay, we can get to that. Am I talking too slowly? Am I saying too much?
No.
Okay. So I arrived in London.
Where did you live?
I lived in like these halls, and my dad came to see them for a few days, and my mum as well.
Sorry.
King's is in like by the Strand, by Holborn. Then there's also one by Waterloo. There's also one by the Shard. And then I was mostly situated like in St. Thomas Hospital, like opposite. They have like a thing, but that's like mostly for the, like, it's not an actual campus, it's like actual offices. There's like specifically a robotics office section that they have there.
And where were your halls?
My halls were next to Borough Market, and when my dad saw them, he like cried because they were so bad. They had like the carpets that were like, if you like touched them with your bare hands, you would get like a razor burn. Do you know what I mean? And the shower was like tiny. It was on top of the toilet, like situated on top. So like I'd shower with my legs open, like over the fucking toilet. And it was just really gross. But yeah, that was halls for the first year. But like I never complained. I was like, yeah, this is so happy, and I was super happy. I was like, I'm super lucky and everything. I immediately got into a relationship with this guy called Ollie.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and then I mean I don't think that there was like Ollie was very sweet, and like he was really sweet.
He was in your course.
He was in my course, and
like 200 people or something. Or less. How big was your course?
Like
60?
20 people. I dated two guys in my course. Can you imagine?
It was not 20.
Yeah. Okay. No. More, like 40. They were like 40.
Okay.
40. But when I was with Ollie, then I relapsed into like anorexia again, like hardcore. That was like the worst I've ever been. And so like I guess like with him I tie some like not so good feelings, but like nothing. I don't think it was anything to do with him.
And So the first time because I was thinking when you're not eating, so obviously it's like hard to socialize because there's a lot of socializing around food, and so that energy, was that going into dance? Like, so instead of eating, you would spend the time like just practicing dancing?
No, I would spend the time thinking about food, obsessing over food, trying to feed people food. Like, everything was
like
just
going to the supermarket and looking at all the food.
Yeah. Oh my god, supermarkets. But even now, like, I love it. I love, like, but at that time, like, yeah, I could go into a supermarket, and like, this is in London. Like, now when I was alone, like in Cape Town, like, it was different because like I wasn't, even though I was living by myself, like my mom would always like drop things off and like stuff. Like, I wasn't really like buying so much of my own food. And yeah, I was younger, I couldn't even drive. But in London, like, I was like full reins by myself, and I was like, right, I know exactly how to do this, and like
how to not eat.
Yeah, and like, it's like my brain just was filled with numbers all the time. Like, I'd spend like, I could go into a supermarket for like 3 hours, and I'm obsessed with peanut butter, and I'd like look at the different peanut butters and like compare the different amounts of carbs, and I'd know like after a year of doing this, like everything, like I knew all the numbers. Like, you could tell me this packet and I'd be like, yeah, okay, carbs 4.3 grams, this like all of this shit.
And were you conscious of anyone wondering what you were doing?
Yeah, I'd like get so anxious, but it was almost like a high. Like, it was just like, yeah. And I'd always be like waiting for the time where I could eat, like, and like looking forward to the time at like 6 o'clock in the day when I'd make a miso soup or whatever. And I mean, yeah, it was just like, yeah, food was like this amazing thing that was on this pedestal that like I just didn't deserve.
Yeah. So the reason I was asking about that, because I think you said that recently when I saw you in Cambridge, that you were like, you just threw yourself into like pole dancing, rehearsing.
Yes.
But that's a separate...
No,
because I was going to ask if you became, like, dancing was your obsession, but then in London, maybe I'm getting this wrong, but you were like studying became your obsession, and like you had to be like top of the class.
Yeah.
Is that a separate thing, or is that related to eating as well?
I think that the way to describe it is that I think I don't like saying I have a lot of anxiety, because like maybe I think everyone has anxiety, but like I'm not saying I have like a shit ton. I definitely do have anxiety. Like, my way of like, my general brain feels anxious. How do we cope with it? Obsess with one thing. And so obsess over food, obsess over getting the best marks, obsess over pole dancing. Like the most recent pole dancing competition I did, like 5 minutes beforehand, I tore my hamstring, and then some girl gave me like ibuprofens or whatever. I like downed them, and I went on stage and I did everything. I danced, I came first, and everything like that. And afterwards, I remember feeling like, oh my god, what the fuck? Like, because it was like, you know, so I'd gone crazy with it. Even when I went back to Cape Town like 2-3 weeks before that, and like I didn't do anything except for like I found a pole studio, and for like 7 hours a day I just went to pole. Like, I was obsessed.
So maybe is that when you're healthier with food, you'll turn the obsession into something else kind of thing.
And I was quite healthy with food. Like, pole dancing made me feel really confident, and like, I mean, I do really, really, really love it. And I think that it was so good for like my confidence and like just regaining like a love for my body. That's definitely there now. Like, I have a lot of compassion.
Good.
Yeah, it is nice.
Okay. Fuck, I'm like, there's so much I want to talk about.
Okay, Dina, you must stop me because I'm just talking too much.
No, you're not.
Okay.
This is what it's meant to be. People want to hear about your life. Okay. should we go back to London or should we talk about what you're doing now? Because I kind of want to ask you if you're going to keep doing pole dancing or what it looks like.
Yes.
Well, because the message you sent me, when I was like, will you come to a podcast? And you were like, can I read what you said?
Yeah.
You were like, yes, I would be honoured. Do you have any idea about which aspect you'd like to talk about? Anorexia / mental health, women in STEM, stripping. And I'm like, yes, we're pretty much covering all of them. I
would love to I know that dancing, being on stage, performing, pole dancing, like that is where I am happy. I do feel indebted to because of all of the studies that I've done, that I should also somehow or in my life balance the two. And I know we spoke about this when we were talking about careers last year, and you were like, you can do both. And you were also saying how even though just because you have an engineering degree doesn't mean you need to always pursue that path. I think this is it's a very common human thing of if you've invested time, there's a word for it, I don't know.
Sunk cost fallacy.
Exactly.
It happens with relationships.
Yeah.
With anything, it's because I've invested in this, I need to keep going, even when I know
that is not right.
Yeah.
And this happens with people as well, I feel. Sometimes they're connections that are not worth the energy and that are not actually, I think, beneficial, but you oh fuck, well, we've known each other for a long time and therefore this needs to carry on. But yeah.
Okay, wait, so let's go back to London.
Yes.
So you're at King's, and then that's when you were the most unwell you've ever been. In your first year.
In my first year at King's. And I remember we had our first semester break, or not first semester, our first year break. And that's when I was going on holiday to see my dad and then my mom for the first time since they'd left me for the whole year. And I was really nervous for them to see me because I knew that they'd be unhappy. And I was like, okay, Izzy, you're going to be, just be happy and show that you're okay and show that you're fine. And I went to Ibiza with my dad and my siblings, and it was just a very emotional time. I think I was just, I was unhappy. And I'm so embarrassed because I still I said to my younger sister the other day, we ever talking about this time, she's like, yeah, you were such a bitch. You were oh my God. And sometimes my dad's wife, she'll sometimes be oh yeah, Izzy, her, you were so bitchy at that time. What was going on? And I'm ugh.
What were you like?
The thing is that I have a lot of my memory is so bad with this stuff. I feel when you're not eating, your memory really is impacted. So there's a lot of things I'm just I don't know. And I think I was also very internal in my own head. Mm-hmm. But apparently I was really I'd wake up in the morning and be come, we need to go do things, we need to be doing things, and I was just very on edge. And then I remember after seeing my dad, my dad was just before when we left Ibiza, he was he was gonna call my Professor Oleg and tell him that I'm not coming back, and he was I'm booking you into rehab and you're staying in Cape Town. And I then went on to see my mom in Italy and then went back to Cape Town. And then again I was right, I can't let what the fuck am I doing to myself? And then started recovering and just trying to recover. I didn't go to rehab that time, but I did have I didn't even do counseling either. I really don't like counseling because it makes me feel super guilty. And I remember with my counselor, from the first time when I was anorexic, I'd always just be oh, I like your nails, or this or this or this. I would talk to her about such bullshit because I just felt so bad being there. But
How much weight had you lost at that point?
I was 35 kilograms. And I remember like I just wanted to get to 34, like 34.2. I was like, I just want 34.2. I remember being in Ibiza and like always checking the scale in my dad's bathroom, and being like, I'm just going to the toilet, and like, you know, I'd be like, okay, maybe you're drinking too much water, like, and or like, you know, it was like, and I didn't want to be healthy. Like I remember like my mom and dad were always like, just take some vitamins, and I was like, I don't want to take them. Like I wanted to be like sick. Like I just really, really hated myself a lot. But but like I think that I even talking about this now, like I feel uncomfortable in a way, because I feel like we all, like, I'm not like, oh, special person, like hate yourself. Like we all deal with this. I mean, like that's like in talking about this, like I just like, I think that like it's sad that we do all deal with this, because I know like we have friends and like, you know, we always say to each other like, you know, you're such an amazing person and you're doing okay, and we genuinely believe it. Like when I'm like, Delia, I think you're fucking insane. Like I genuinely believe it. And I think it's so sad that like, you know, there's so many humans on this earth, and like, you know, why are we so hard on ourselves all the time? Like life is so complicated and crazy, and like there's no way that we can control it all, and like we can't always be the best. Like we don't, like we just, yeah, like, you know, you know, I love you.
Okay, so is that the point that you then turned around when you were back in Cape Town and you got back to
and started getting better? And
what's your normal weight for? I mean, if you don't mind.
I don't weigh myself anymore, but I would say I'm like 65.
Yeah, so 35, just as in, because it's not like you're 4 foot.
Yeah, no.
So 35 is really,
it was
really
tiny.
low.
Yeah, I remember everything hurt. Like it hurt to sit everywhere. Like my bones were fucking sticking out. I had bruises everywhere. Like I was just like,
Did you ever go to rehab?
I went like to like some like outpatient stuff, like when I was younger, at Crescent Clinic, and like, you know, had like dietitians and stuff like that, and it would give me so much anxiety because I just wanted to like show them that I was okay. Like I just wanted everyone to be like, to think that I was okay. So I like drink like a liter of water before I went to the dietitian because she'd weigh me. And like I remember feeling so much anxiety, like, oh my god, I'm gonna let her down. It's so bizarre. Like, what the fuck? It's just food. But geez, it was big. It was like everything. Like even in the morning, if my mom would make me scrambled eggs, and like I'd be like, oh my god, she's putting so much butter on it. I went to I remember going to the school therapist because my mom packed me a cheesecake for lunch, and I was like, this cheesecake is too big. Like what? Like what was my brain thinking? Like it's just such a fucking useless thing to be worrying about.
And what did the therapist say?
I don't know what he said. I think he was just like, it's okay. He was probably like, what the fuck is this chick on about? Like, honestly, there are so many like bigger problems in the world than a piece of fucking cheesecake. But that's how you, like, your brain is like literally sick. Like it's just different. It doesn't feel like me now. Like that, I feel like it, like I have this like personality dysmorphia sometimes of like, I'm like, what? Like was that, how was I capable of being like that or thinking like that?
So how soon were you able to go back to where your parents kind of like prove that you're healthy and then you can go back?
I had to go back because like the new year was starting, and like I think that they saw that immediately when I got to Cape Town. I was like, right, I need to get better. I think when I was in Italy with my mom and my stepdad David, like I remember like just looking at photos and being like, oh my god, like that looks so bad. And like I luckily like I saw that I didn't like it. I recognized like, okay, like this doesn't look so healthy, and you don't, you know, but like I said, like my thoughts aren't binary. So like sometimes I think that, but then sometimes I'd be like, oh my god, okay, now you just let yourself eat a piece of cake, like, and then I think the total opposite. But yeah, and then yeah, what happened? I went back to London. Then I broke up with Ollie, and then I got into another relationship with someone. Yeah, and like, yeah, I think that I'm very much done with the like jumping into relationship things. Like I mean, I'm saying this now, and I'm sure like this will happen to me again, but like now I look back at those relationships and the person I was, and I'm like, oh, that's so far, and that's not me. Like what were you doing? But yeah, I don't know.
Okay, and then no, it's just I'm like the exact same, but I mean this is
yeah.
So
you feel the same as well?
Yeah.
But then like all the guys that like I have like broken up with, I'm just like, okay, bye. Like never a feeling or anything, and it's like, what is that? Like I think I don't know what that is. That's another thing to unpack. Let's not talk about that now.
Yeah. Although that one guy came back into your life.
Which one?
The original one.
Yaniv. Oh my god, yeah.
But we don't have to
No,
talk about that.
but I saw him and like I saw him in London for like 4 hours, and we're just like I was like, also with him, I was like, no, I guess I was just younger and like I didn't really know, but at that time I was in love, but not anymore.
And so then, should we talk about Cambridge?
Yeah, let's talk about Cambridge.
So you finished the King's, that was 3 years?
Yeah. I finished at King's, and I then went to Cambridge, and I was like, I think Cambridge is like, it is something that like I even like when I was younger, like I even wrote I found like an autobiography like vibe thing that I made in grade 5 when I was like maybe what was that 12 years old, and I'd written down like I was like, I want to, when I grow up I want to be a dancer, and I want to be smart and go to Harvard or Oxford. Okay, Cambridge is quite similar to that. Like I always had this kind of thing of like I wanted to get there, I wanted to prove something, and so I was really 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 happy to get in. And I remember when I got the email, I was like in my house in Cape Town with my mom and David, and this was during COVID because I had to leave, so I left King's in my 3rd year and finished the 3rd year in Cape Town because it was COVID. I remember getting the email, I was in the house with my mom and David, and I was just like crying, and I was like, oh my god. I just remember thinking, right, life is sorted, like everything's great, like that's all I've ever dreamed of, like I'm fulfilled now.
Yeah.
Obviously that's not the case.
For a master of
biotechnology and chemical engineering. Went to Cambridge, but arrived during the COVID times, and I mean it was a very like, I mean were we there together? We were. Wait, but we were living in different houses. Yeah, and you were also away sometimes. Yeah.
I didn't meet you until, so you had the first year when, because you then went back.
I was so scared of you when I first met you. I was like, you're so cool.
Okay. Because you went home in, was it January?
I went, yeah. So
David passed away.
Yeah, in January David passed away. So I was there in September, and I had like, I arrived in September, and I was there until January when David died, and then I went back to South Africa. So yeah, Should I?
If you want to.
Yeah, I can. I know. You can ask me specifics.
Sorry?
I said you can ask me any specifics.
Oh, yeah. So David, your stepdad, who really unexpectedly died of COVID.
Yeah, and he was like my absolute like best friend. We had such a really great connection. Like, he came into my life when I was 12, when my parents got divorced, and he was just like such a special person. He was an architect. He was so thoughtful, and like the way that he looked at the world was just amazing, and he just helped so many people. I mean, the amount of times like he'd help me with my school projects, or he'd help my sister's friends with their school projects to like get into uni, or like he was just always so attentive with everyone. I know my friend DP had like a fundraising thing for this one child soldier who had moved to South Africa, and like everyone like gave money, and David gave money and everything, and then David...
Wait, what do you mean?
Like,
child soldier?
Like, he was an ex-child soldier from like Rwanda, and he was living on the streets in Cape Town, and my friend DP interviewed him. The way you said it sounded like you were like supporting child. Okay, yeah. Yeah, no, so there's a guy who needed help, and like DP raised so much money for him, and like it went viral. Like, so many people had put in money to help this guy, and David, out of all of the thousands of people who this campaign got to, David was the only one who messaged DP and was like, hey, can I take this guy for like maybe some walks up the mountains on Saturdays, or like, you know, like mentor him and like actually give him my time. And like, he was just that kind of person. Like, he gave everyone time, and he, no matter how young you were, no matter how old you were, no matter like your like power or whatever, he would always give you like attention and love. And yeah, he was just amazing. And he felt like I say, I was really lucky to have him. It felt like I had a second dad. He helped me with so many things emotionally. He was just always there. I feel so bad like now that he died. Like, I'm like, oh my god, like the amount of time he had to spend just listening to me like ranting about guys, or like these stupid like insignificant things, like on the greater scheme. But yeah, he had got COVID with my mom in December time, and my mom had it, like they both had it for like, you know, like after a week, my mom was better, David wasn't, and my mom took him to the hospital, and he was in the hospital for like 2 weeks. I feel really bad because around that time, like, I don't know, it was like New Year's, and I was like, I don't know, like busy, like, but like, no, like I should have had more time to speak to him. I didn't, like, I just wish I spoke to him more before, in the December time, before he went into hospital. Once he was sick, like I tried to call him, and he was like, my mom would always say like, no, he needs to protect his oxygen and everything, and like I was like, okay, like what am I gonna do? I'd message him every single day, but like by the time he was in hospital, he was like taken like after 3 days to ICU, and he should have been taken sooner, but there wasn't space, and he didn't have his phone, but I'd still message him like all the time. I think the last message he said to me was like I was like, David, you got this, you're so strong, and like you're so brave, and like you're gonna be fine, and we can't wait to see you, and you have this. And he was like, no, Izzy, like I'm feeling like quite sick, but thank you for your message, like, or something like that. It was really sad. Yeah, really, really sad, because yeah, that's been like it shattered my whole life when he died. And like, you know, like how I said when my parents got divorced, like that was the one thing that kind of, I was like, okay, like we're not all superhuman, and there's no such thing as a perfect human. But then when David died, it was like kind of like, oh, actually the whole world is not necessarily like only good things are going to happen, and the whole world isn't really fair. And that's a really scary thing, but it's also like kind of freed me in a sense, because it's like, you know, don't take everything so seriously, I think. it's definitely changed me completely in that way. And also just like appreciate like the small things and be kind. I used to always think like, oh, I'm going to change the world and like make this super device that's going to save so many lives, and it's like, no, like I just want to be kind to like everyone that I see, and like, you know, on a personal basis, like make sure that people feel love. And like, because I think that's just like the best feeling to have while we're here on this earth.
I think you're pretty good at that.
Thank you, Deli.
You are. Yeah. So it was so unexpected, right? Because he was young, like
he was in his 50s. He used to like climb up Lion's Head like every single day, like, and like do it in record time, like 33 minutes, and he'd always want to get it down to 30. Like he was just like he didn't do drugs, didn't like drink a lot, like, well, actually he used to have like a glass of wine every day during COVID times, and we actually got to spend a lot of really like special, like I am grateful for the time that I got to spend with him before, because like when I came back from London before I went to Cambridge, and I was staying with him and my mom, and we got to spend a lot of special time together because of lockdown. So like we'd have like our dinner o'clock at like 5 o'clock every day, although then the government banned alcohol, so it was kind of hard to get that. Although because he was an architect, my favorite story is like we were sitting at the table and he was like, Izzy, do you want me to ask to get paid in wine? Because he was doing a project with a like winery instead of money. And like, so we went up to Stellenbosch the one day and like got like filled his car with like bottles of wine. Anyways, I used to do like exercise with him in the morning. Every morning I'd like wake up, I'd go downstairs, I'd be like, Mom, David, like come, we're going to exercise. David would always join me. My mom wouldn't, and then he'd go for like runs up and down the beach. He was super fit. It was super unexpected. I remember like I feel so guilty about this, when I just came down from, he was really, really cautious about COVID in the beginning. And like when I just came down from London, he made me quarantine in like a separate apartment, and like actually one of my old apartments. And I was like so mad at him, and I was like, what the fuck? Like this is like, how can you tell me what to do? And like, you know, I was just like, this is so stupid. And, you know, I feel so bad about that now in retrospect. Like, even though I was screaming at him all the time, he'd still come upstairs and like sit with me while I ate my dinner. Like my mom was always downstairs, like she wouldn't, but like he'd come upstairs, and even though I'd like always shout at him and be like, oh, I'm so mad you're making me like do this, he'd come and he'd sit like far away from me while I ate my dinner. And like other things, like we'd go shopping for his mom, and then like go to his mom's house, drop the groceries off, but he'd like make a bleach bath to like disinfect all the groceries and everything. He was super cautious. And then towards the end of it, he was like, oh no, like, you know, everyone, like, you know, just gotta get it, like it's like the flu. And then, you know, my mom and him used to joke like, oh, we just need to get it, and then like, you know, we can be free and we can like, you know, not be afraid of anything. And yeah, he like just like, what, I don't like, I remember my mom, I was in Cambridge, it was a Friday night, and she wasn't allowed to go visit him in the hospital, even though she had recovered from COVID now. And I remember her telling me like, oh my gosh, the doctor called me. Like every day we'd get at like 5 o'clock, we'd get his like vital signs. It'd be like, oh, like oxygen at this is a bit lower. Like he's like stable, but not getting better, not getting worse. And I was always like, oh, he's in the ICU though, so he's got the best care, so that's fine. And like, you know, like, I don't know, just always thinking like, no, it's fine. Like this is not happening. This is not real. My mom called me the one day, we're having like a Friday night dinner with this, like some friends in Cambridge, and she called me. She was like, oh, the doctor's allowed me to go see David. And I remember just being like, oh, I'm so happy for you, Mom. And like put down the phone and just burst out crying, because I was like, you know, obviously if the doctor's going to sneak her in to see him, like it's not very good. And she saw him on the Saturday, and like, you know, he was all puffy, he couldn't move, he couldn't talk. Apparently the only words he said to her was like Harry Potter dreams. And like while she was there, he like was like had a hard time breathing, so the nurses had to come and flop him over. It's like this huge David was really tall, like this huge tall guy. Like imagine having no control over anything. And my mom said like she had to wear gloves and everything, but like she took them off and she like tried to give him like a foot massage and whatever. And then on the Monday, I woke up and she called me at like 7 o'clock in the morning, and I knew immediately that David had died. And she was told by like a doctor who was not the same doctor who was originally looking after him, and the doctor just said like, oh, we ventilated him, like, and then he was on the ventilator for 20 minutes and then he died. And like it's like, did he die of a heart attack? Did he die because we ventilated him? Should we have ventilated him earlier? Should we have given him ivermectin, which is like the anti-parasitic drug that everyone was saying is like the cure? My mom thinks she shouldn't have taken him to hospital. She thinks the hospital killed him because, it was a scary environment to be in. And of course, like brain, like it's really important, like to also, feel comfortable, and no ICU patient is going to feel comfortable with like everyone walking around with PPE, and you can't have your family members there to like support you. And like I think that's like a really, I just don't understand how people haven't been talking about that since the end of COVID, of like how like mental health was completely like thrown out the window in terms of treating COVID patients. Like, I mean, that's just like, I don't even get scared talking about it now because it feels like couldn't imagine being in a pandemic and you have the thing that is the pandemic, you have COVID, and you like can't breathe, and like you feel like you have wasps in your lungs, and like there's like, you don't know what day it is, you don't know what time it is, you don't know where your family is, you feel like you've been isolated. Like that's just nuts. Like I think we should have been allowed to see our family members. Yeah.
You did an interview about that, didn't you?
Yeah.
Kind of saying something like how
Western medicine, I think, kind of discards, like it just looks too much at the physical, like you have I don't know, heart's beating really fast, you have a sore heart, okay, let's give you some like drugs so that your heart starts beating slower. But like, wait, let's also ask like, how's your life going? Like, are you stressed? Like even stress, like, okay, we can think that's a mental thing. It is a physical thing. Like it's a physical reaction, like everything is. And I don't know, like I think in Western medicine we've somehow gotten to the space where our brain and like how we feel is no longer considered like physical, and doesn't matter. Like with mental health, it's like,
And with David, it was something about like having hope.
Yeah, I think that if we were around him and like saying like things are going to be fine, it's all going to be fine, I think like people forget how powerful like and healing other people can be. Like we're social animals, and we need to feel good in our brains in order to function. Like if you're super unhappy, you can't function, like go crazy.
Yeah, and I guess even those loss, it's just so hard, those final moments that he, because if someone is terminal, at least their family gets to be with them for the end.
Yeah. And he was just like there, and I like, that's why like that message is like so poignant, because it's just like, I feel like you could, like his thing was like, I'm giving up, but like he was just, that must have been so fucking scary. Like imagine you're in a bed and you like know that you're dying. Like his last hand movements apparently was like a thumbs down, and that's when the nurse came. And then I'm like, well, maybe the nurse didn't come fast enough. Like, you're not there, you don't know what. Yeah, but you can't control these things, and like, yeah.
So you ended up taking a year off studies after that.
yeah, so I landed up intermitting. I remember like when David just died, I was like, I still stayed in Cambridge for like another 2 weeks, and I was like I just didn't want to go back to Cape Town. I didn't want to face it, and then I was like, right, I do have to go. I went back to Cape Town, and I was like, why am I still doing this degree? Like, firstly, like I was like I can't. I mean, I couldn't think about any of it, so I intermitted, which means I took a year-long break from my studies.
Yeah, because you don't have a choice, right? If you need time off.
Yeah, you have to take a year.
Yeah.
But they didn't want me to take it off. They were like, you can just carry on online from Cape Town. And I was like, no, like I it's a very practical course. Like, I'm not going to get anything out of it online, and I'm not in a rush. At the same time, like, that intermission, like, was a really hard time, because I mean, I was just processing like David not being there. And I know like my dad and like my family does mention that like I am very like impacted by it. Like I still cry a lot about it, and I'm not sure what the normal grieving process is. I know there's not like a normal grieving process, but like intermission was not easy, taking a break, and for like that reason of grieving, and then also the reason of like having a lot of time for the first time, like being such an overachiever and everything, and giving myself that break. Like, I felt so guilty, and I still do. I still feel so guilty about that. I'm like, ooh, like, like, why?
What's the guilt?
That like, I guess like I feel like almost like, in a way, like I feel like I can get into these like working patterns of like working like really, really hard, and out of stress and out of feeling stressed, and like, it's not enjoyable, but like I get things done, and you get some like dopamine from that. And I feel like I've like kind of giving myself too much leisure in like not feeling stressed, and therefore I'm not doing a lot of work, and I feel like I could be doing more. I feel like I'm wasting time. Like, there's a lot of guilt with that. I feel like I'm almost like stuck in like some sticky honey, and it's like really hard for me to like get out of it and like be that workaholic that I was when I was younger. But at the same time, I'm like happy. Like, I think that like since David died, I've been more focused on short-term happiness, and less on like the things that are going to make me long-term happy. Like, for example, working as hard as I did to get to Cambridge. Like nowadays I'm more like, oh, I just, I want to enjoy like more short-term things. I just want to like have a good cup of coffee with a friend and a lovely chat, and like, I want to like soak everything in. And it's kind of like, at the moment I'm trying to find the balance, because where I'm at the moment, I feel guilty that I'm not doing enough. And then in that, there's like a lot to unpack with that. Like, I don't know, like, I guess that's where like like, why do you think you're worthy is probably, for me, I still think that like the way that I can be worthy is through my work. I feel like I have to be like that in a way. Yeah.
Yeah, this is all stuff that I struggle with as well.
Yeah. And it's like, okay, cool. Like, now you're in the situation of like, okay, I'm not working so hard, but you still have the brain of someone who wants to work hard, and so it's fucking hard. Like, you feel so bad. Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So so you did end up coming back, finishing your course. You had an amazing year.
I had an amazing year. I started my pole dancing stuff, which I loved, and I did lots of performances and shows, and that was really great. And I somehow managed to also do the course pretty well, and yeah,
really well, right?
Yeah.
And the course is all done. Oh, can you say that one ethical thing on your summer in your summer project, how it
Yeah.
was, you were like, I'm not being a part of.
Oh my
Are we
god.
allowed to talk about that?
Yeah. I'm sure we can.
That it's like,
It was ethically weird.
yeah, what is it?
So, I was on the device I was working on.
Yeah.
We're working on a device that you put into your heart, into your aorta, and it prevents blood flowing through your brain to your brain, and it's used on a dead person when you are pumping blood through their body in order to test how healthy their heart is, to see if you can use their heart for donation. Yeah.
But wasn't there something like there's a risk that they come back to
Yeah.
life?
So that's why you have this device that prevents the blood from flowing to your brain so that they can't come back to life when you're pumping their body with blood. But like, I'm pretty sure like if someone's like, there's a very small chance, but it was just like it was a very weird project to work on. I didn't really like it. And I think that also like anything to do with hospitals and with death and all of that stuff, I'm a lot more sensitive to at the moment. And I think that my like peers were like always like, making fun of these things, and I was just like, oh, like I don't think this is a topic. Like that's just me being sensitive though, I think.
Making fun of what? Oh,
like, oh, we're gonna get a dead body to do this on, and like, like you know what I mean. But
yeah.
I don't want to be a stick in the mud, like,
no, but I feel like maybe that's something that's lost a bit in the culture. I don't know. This is the first time I've had this thought, so I'm just gonna say it. But cultures, civilizations throughout history, it's like respecting the dead is such a big part, and there's all these rituals around that.
Yeah.
And religions and whatever it is. And now maybe that's a bit lost. Do you think? So people don't... Because I feel like if you've ever lost someone close to you, it would be very unlikely that you're going to be treating a body like that.
Yeah. So you think in society, like now we've lost that respect?
I don't know, maybe because some of the traditions have, there's this transition between people like leaving religious institutions, but then it's like there's not quite a replacement, and then it's like, oh, one of the good things about having traditions and rituals is you learn things like how to respect, and you learn about death, and you learn about all these things that I feel like maybe some young people, I don't know, I'm just saying random stuff. That's one point. And then the other point is, if you haven't lost someone close to you, then so I don't think you're being so oversensitive, because I lost my brother and saw his body, which is a very, and I feel like after something like that, it changes you. It totally changes you. So you're not being sensitive. It's good that you respect people who have passed, and all, just because we don't know what happens with consciousness and all these things. But okay, so that was the last thing you did at Cambridge.
Yes.
And now you're free.
Now I'm free. I'm going to Peru in like a month. I'm going backpacking with my friend Carrie. I'm super excited for that. And then I am going to train huskies in Lapland, in Sweden, for a few months. It is a 5-month contract, but what?
Oh my god, I want to come and visit.
Yeah, please come visit. I'm gonna leave after like 2 months in the snow. I think I'll be done. I need someone to read my contract to see if I can run away, because I'm only gonna be there for 2 months and my contract says 5, and there's like no fucking way. But come visit. It's gonna be like up in the mountains in the middle of nowhere. I'll see the northern lights and all of that. Get that experience. And then my goals, I'm gonna come back to London. I'm gonna be a pole dancer in the evening. I'm gonna be a techie in the day, and that's the plan
Amazing. You should, Google is, we're sitting in a
saw-
WeWork recording this, and Google's just downstairs. So
I
maybe
saw
you should
that.
go in and
Tell them to hire me.
yeah.
Yeah. I know.
Why not?
Maybe that's the next goal.
So exciting.
Yeah.
I feel like you should come back on here when you're in Lapland and tell us what it's like. I mean, because we could just keep talking forever, but I feel like we should wrap up now. 'Cause
Yeah.
It's been, guess how long it's been?
An hour? How long has it been?
An hour and a half.
Oh my god! I'm gonna put this whole thing on.
Yeah. It's great.
Oh, Dilly.
Is there anything? Oh, wait. So my last question is. Wait, 2 questions, because you read great books. Is there a book that's had the biggest influence on your life?
Oh, yes. Okay. Affluence Without Abundance. It is about hunter-gatherers and how they lived affluent lives without abundance. And it's basically just showing how I think it's a really beautiful book. I think it's got really important things in it, and it's basically since settling down in the agricultural revolution, we think that everything, it goes into how we think that the world is way better now than the primitive hunter-gatherers, and actually isn't looking at evidence that's not necessarily the case. And it also goes into explain how the agricultural revolution kind of built up a society that we have now of this whole scarcity mindset of how you have to work the land, you have to put in energy to nature and wait long periods of time until you get your harvest back. And so you'd have a lot of scarcity and then a lot of abundance, and a lot of scarcity and a lot of abundance, and how it's kind of influences our lives today. I think it's just really it's one of those books that can help you have okay, let's look at the world in a different way, and things didn't always work like this, and our societies weren't always constructed like this, and this is not the only way. And there's a follow-up book to that called Work, A History of How We Spend Our Time, and that focuses more on
Who's the author?
James Suzman, a South African guy who's at Cambridge now.
Cool. Maybe you can get him on the podcast.
Oh my god, I can! I have his number.
Great. I'll read the book first. And then you read so many good. Okay, you definitely have to come back on, because I want you to talk about all the different books that you've told me about, the Carlo Rovelli one. Is that the
Yes. Oh my god,
physics?
I love that. I actually gave that to this guy, Adam.
What's the book called again?
The Order of Time. It is the best fucking book ever. That book made me cry. It was just time is always time is always here, and it was just talking about that in 10 really short and sweet chapters, had some poetry in it as well, and just it is a beautiful, it describes time in terms of physics in the most beautiful and simple way. Just talking about how we think time is linear, and we think that time is always the same, the time we spend now is the same time as another hour that we can spend somewhere else, but actually time can speed up, time can be slower, it's relative, the present doesn't exist, there's no such thing as that. It's a cool book. That's a nice book as well. Yeah.
And then Guns, Gems
and Steel. Oh my god, yeah, that was a good book as well. It was fucking long though. I just got it back from James in Woodland. I borrowed it to him. Yeah.
I've just started using Twitter. It's really
Really?
fun.
Oh my god, I'm so scared of Twitter.
Someone's talking about Sapiens, how it's all now it's being criticized or whatever.
Yeah, because they think that Yuval just stole everyone's ideas and wrote it down.
Or apparently it's not that accurate. I don't know. But someone was saying the same with gun germs in the same thread.
Yeah.
Someone was saying that they're oh, this is disputed enough.
This is what I hate about a history student at Cambridge was saying this. They're oh, it's pub history. And I'm ugh, shut up. It's a good way to learn a basic message. you know, but
and to start a conversation. And, you know, as long as you're clever enough, which everyone should be, that not everything said is like absolute fact, you know. It's like, what is truth? This is one person's interpretation. This has been written to sell a lot of books. Obviously, it's not an academic book. It's a trade book. As academics book. You know, it's like you have to also, like, with communication, you have to know, like, who your audience is. And, like, the audience of these books is, like, just laymen. It's, like, you know, like, I think that these that's what it was cool. Someone in the thread was, like, someone said Guns, Germs and Steel has always been considered dubious in our field. And then someone replied saying, I only ever read things that are considered dubious, which I thought was really cool.
I love that. Yeah, I don't think there's... I mean, I think that there's interesting thoughts in these books. I don't know why people have to be like, so critical.
Okay, and then last question. Yes. What are the 3 words that describe the person who you want to be in the world? How you want to show up?
Oh, okay. Number 1, daring. Number 2, like sunshine. And number 3 is... I can't decide between smart or nuts. Smarty nuts. We made that one word.
Nice.
Yeah. Are we done?
Yeah, we're done.
Okay, bye everyone.